A few years ago, I was scrolling through Reddit, half bored, when I saw a post about Thanksgiving family drama. You know the type, someone complaining about their in-laws bringing up politics, a drunk uncle knocking over the mashed potatoes, that kind of thing. Felt pretty tame compared to what my family gatherings look like, so I left a comment. One of my cousins stabbed his mom to death the day before Thanksgiving a few years back. Makes for an awkward dinner conversation. I expected some upvotes, maybe a couple of shocked replies. What I didn't expect was for someone to respond with, "Tell them about your cousin who killed a prostitute." Now, that caught my attention. Not just because it was wild, but because the account that posted it had my last name. I clicked on the profile, and my stomach dropped. Because I had no idea who this person was. And that's how I found out my son existed. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. The username wasn't just some random troll, it had my last name, my family's name. And the comment? It was too specific to be a coincidence. I typed out a reply. Something casual. Something nonchalant, like I wasn't completely freaking out. "Who are you?" Seconds later, a response popped up. "Wouldn't you like to know, Dad?" Dad. I swear I felt the blood drain from my face. Because unless I had a long-lost twin brother I didn't know about, there was only one way someone could call me that. I had a son. A son I didn't know about. And apparently, he was lurking in the depths of Reddit, waiting for the perfect moment to drop that little bomb on me. Before I could even process that, another user chimed in. "How many members of your family are here?" And my son replied, "I don't know. We'll find out tomorrow at Thanksgiving." Now, I don't know about you, but that sounded less like a joke and more like the setup to a horror movie. I had no idea what I was walking into. I barely slept that night. My brain kept looping through every possible scenario. Who was this kid? How did he find me? And why did he decide to drop this nuclear bomb in the middle of a Reddit thread like it was no big deal? By morning, I had convinced myself that this had to be some sort of elaborate prank. Maybe a distant relative messing with me. Maybe just some internet weirdo. Either way, I wasn't going to let it ruin my Thanksgiving. Bad idea. I showed up at my aunt's house around noon, same as always. The usual crowd was their uncles, cousins, that one cousin who just got out of prison again. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Until I saw him. A kid, well, not a kid, more like a guy in his early 20s, standing near the drink table, staring straight at me. And the second our eyes met, I just knew. He had my face. My nose. My stupid, awkward stance. He smirked and raised his glass. "Hey, Dad." My stomach turned to ice. Because suddenly, it wasn't just a theory. This was real. I had a son. And he had come to Thanksgiving. For a solid 5 seconds, I just stood there, gripping my beer like it was the only thing keeping me upright. My brain refused to work. Then, as if the universe wanted to make things even weirder, my Aunt Lisa, bless her oblivious heart, waddled over and clapped me on the back. "Well, don't just stand there, introduce us," she chirped. "Who's your friend?" "My friend." "Right. Sure. That's one way to put it." The guy, my son, didn't miss a beat. He stuck out his hand and said, "I'm Jake." Just Jake. No last name. No "hey, so I exist" surprise. Nothing. Just a name. I shook his hand because, honestly, what else was I supposed to do? Say, yeah, Aunt Lisa, this is Jake, my long-lost son I just met 30 seconds ago in front of the drink table? Didn't seem like the right moment for that. "Nice to meet you, Jake," Aunt Lisa said, giving him one of those warm, motherly smiles. "How do you know our boy here?" Jake smiled back. "Oh, I've known him my whole life." Then he took a sip of his drink like he hadn't just detonated a verbal grenade at our feet. I nearly choked on my beer. Aunt Lisa laughed, completely missing the tension. "Well, isn't that sweet?" Then she shuffled off, leaving me alone with the stranger who had my face. I took a deep breath. "Okay," I muttered, "you want to tell me what the hell is going on?" Jake just smirked. "We'll get to that. But first, dinner." And just like that, he walked off toward the dining room. Like we were about to sit down and pass the mashed potatoes instead of unravel my entire life. I had no idea what was coming next. I followed Jake into the dining room, my legs moving on autopilot. Everyone was already finding their seats, passing dishes around, making small talk. It all looked so normal. Except it wasn't. Because across from me sat a guy I had no memory of creating, who apparently had a whole lifetime of memories about me. I ended up between my cousin Darren, who once set a gas station on fire by accident, and my Uncle Ray, who went to prison in the 90s but no one ever talks about why. The whole table was a collection of bad decisions, some worse than others. And now, apparently, I had passed my genes on to another one. Jake sat directly across from me, arms crossed, watching. Studying. Like he was waiting for me to crack first. I was about to say something, hell, I didn't even know what, when my uncle cleared his throat and raised his glass. "A toast," he announced. "To family. The ones we know about and the ones we don't." My entire body stiffened. "Jake?" Oh, Jake just grinned. He lifted his glass. "I'll drink to that." I had never wanted to crawl under a table so badly in my entire life. I took a long sip of my beer, trying to process everything. The way my uncle said that toast? That wasn't random. He knew. They all knew. And I was the last idiot to find out. Plates clattered, conversations picked up, but my brain was stuck in a loop. Who told them? How long had they known? And why the hell was Jake acting like this was some kind of twisted game? "How's the turkey, Dad?" Jake asked, way too casually. I nearly choked. The table went quiet. A couple forks froze midair. Someone coughed. He was enjoying this. He wanted me to squirm. I swallowed hard and set my drink down. "You want to tell me what the hell is going on, Jake?" My voice came out lower than I expected, quieter. I didn't want a scene. Jake just shrugged. "Nothing much. Just figured Thanksgiving was a good time for a family reunion. Since, I never got one before." The words hit me like a punch to the ribs. Someone muttered "Jesus Christ" under their breath. My aunt nervously passed the stuffing like that was gonna fix the situation. I rubbed my temples. "Look, man, I don't remember?" Jake interrupted. He leaned forward. "Yeah. I figured. I had nothing. No defense. No excuse. Because he was right. I didn't remember." And that, apparently, was the problem. The table was silent, except for the clinking of silverware against plates. Everyone was pretending they weren't listening, but I could feel the eyes on me. Jake sat back in his chair, arms crossed, waiting. Waiting for what? An apology? A confession? Hell, I didn't even know what I was supposed to be guilty of yet. I cleared my throat, keeping my voice low. "I don't remember, because I don't know, Jake. I don't even know who your mom is." That was, apparently, the wrong thing to say. Jake let out a sharp, humorless laugh. "Wow. Okay. That's actually impressive." He shook his head, running a hand through his hair. "Damn, you really just went about your life like I never existed, huh?" I opened my mouth. Closed it. There was no good response to that. From the end of the table, Uncle Ray sighed dramatically. "For Christ's sake, just tell him, Jake. Dragging it out ain't gonna make it hurt any less." My stomach flipped. "Tell me what?" Jake exhaled, shaking his head like he couldn't believe he had to spell it out. Then he looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You slept with my mom when you were 20. She got pregnant. You left. She died. And I grew up knowing exactly who you were while you never gave me a second thought. Boom. There it was. The weight of it hit me all at once, like a truck going 90 straight into my chest. I barely heard the murmur of reactions around the table. My hands were sweating. My throat was dry. Because for the life of me, I still couldn't remember who the hell his mom was. I sat there, my brain short-circuiting. My mouth opened, then closed, because what the hell was I supposed to say to that? That's as far as I got. No words came. No explanation. Because I didn't remember. And that was somehow worse than if I had. Jake watched me, waiting. Daring me to deny it. His jaw was tight, but his eyes had this mix of anger and something else. Something that almost looked like hope. Like some part of him actually wanted me to remember. But I didn't. And judging by the way my uncle, my cousin, even my freaking aunt wouldn't meet my eyes, they all knew more than I did. I ran a hand over my face. Jake, man. I don't know what to say. I don't even know who. Her name was Vanessa. I blinked. The name rattled around in my skull, looking for something to stick to. Vanessa. The name felt distant. Familiar in that I've heard this before, but I don't know why kind of way. And then, like a slap to the face, it hit me. Vanessa. That girl. That one night. The party. The drinks. The way I left in the morning, hungover and not even bothering to get her number. Oh shit. Jake saw the realization hit me, and his expression darkened. Yeah. That Vanessa. A long, heavy silence stretched between us. My hands were shaking. Because I had walked out of her life without a second thought. And now, her son, the son I never knew I had, was sitting across from me, waiting for me to own up to what I did. And I had no idea how to fix it. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. Vanessa. I hadn't thought about her in years. Maybe even over a decade. She was just a blurry memory from a night I barely remembered, some party, too many drinks, a hookup that felt meaningless at the time. But it hadn't been meaningless. Not to her. Not to Jake. And now, here he was, sitting across from me, watching the guilt settle in. I swallowed hard. Jake, man. I didn't know. His laugh was sharp, bitter. No shit, Dad. He shook his head, poking at his plate with his fork. You think if you had known, things would have been different? I opened my mouth, but I had no idea how to answer that. Would they have been different? Or would I have been just as much of a coward back then as I was feeling right now? Before I could say anything, Aunt Lisa's sweet, always trying to keep the peace Aunt Lisa nervously cleared her throat. Well, this is certainly a surprise. But, the important thing is that we're all here together now. She let out a weak chuckle, as if sheer optimism could fix this absolute disaster. No one else laughed. Jake leaned forward, dropping his fork onto his plate with a loud clink. You want to know the best part? He asked, voice too casual, too controlled. My mom, Vanessa? She died 6 years ago. I felt like I had been physically shoved backward. My throat went dry. She what? Jake's expression didn't change. Car accident. Single mom. No family. No safety net. He tilted his head. You weren't there. You didn't even know. The weight of it pressed down on my chest, suffocating. I had abandoned her. I had abandoned him. And he had grown up knowing exactly who I was, while I had lived my life without a second thought. For the first time that night, I had nothing to say. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't sure I'd ever be able to make this right. The weight of Jake's words settled over the table like a thick fog. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Even my uncle, who once got arrested for throwing a chair at a bartender, looked uncomfortable. 6 years. 6 years since Vanessa died. And I hadn't known. hadn't even noticed. My hands curled into fists under the table. Jake! I swear to God, I didn't know. If I had. If you had what? Jake interrupted, his voice sharp. Stepped up? Been a father? Please. He let out a cold laugh. Let's not pretend you would have suddenly turned into some stand-up guy. That one hurt. Mostly because I wasn't sure he was wrong. I exhaled slowly. I don't know what you want from me, Jake. His jaw clenched. Nothing, he said. Not anymore. That should have been the end of it. The final knife twist before he walked out and left me drowning in my own guilt. But no. This was my family. And nothing was ever that simple. Because right then, my cousin Darren, yes, gas station arson Darren, decided this was the perfect time to open his big mouth. Well, shit, he said, popping a bite of stuffing into his mouth. That explains why he acts like one of us. A chill ran down my spine. What? Darren grinned. Oh, come on, man. You didn't think you were the only family skeleton this kid had, did you? Jake didn't react. Didn't even blink. Which meant he already knew. I turned to him, my stomach twisting. Jake? My voice came out quieter than I meant it to. What's he talking about? Jake met my eyes, his expression unreadable. Then he leaned back in his chair, exhaled, and said, Did you really think your bad decisions were the only ones that screwed up my life? And just like that, I realized I wasn't the worst part of his story. Not by a long shot. I stared at Jake, trying to process what he just said. His words hung in the air like a bad smell. The kind of thing that gets into your clothes and sticks with you for hours after you've left the room. Your family, Jake started, his voice low but steady, they're not as clean as you think. I felt a pit form in my stomach. I had no idea where this was going, but I had a bad feeling. You think I was the only one who got screwed over in all this? Jake continued, shaking his head slowly. Nah, man. The whole damn family's a mess. I glanced around the table, feeling the eyes of my relatives boring into me. Everyone was listening. Everyone was holding their breath, waiting for the next chapter of this sick family drama to unfold. Uncle Ray was the first to break the silence. He shifted in his seat, looking uncomfortable. Jake, don't. Don't what? Jake cut him off. Don't tell him the truth? That'll be a first for this family. He turned his gaze back to me. You really want to know? You think your screw-ups are the only thing I've had to deal with? I nodded, though I was starting to feel sick to my stomach. Let's talk about your cousin Darren, huh? Jake said, looking across the table at Darren, who suddenly looked very interested in his mashed potatoes. I felt the tension build in the room as everyone shifted uncomfortably. You remember when Darren got arrested for arson, right? Jake asked, his voice casual, but I could hear the venom in his words. Well, he wasn't the only one in this family who did some time for some questionable activities. My head was spinning. Don't listen to him, Darren mumbled, trying to brush it off, but his voice shook. Jake wasn't done. Oh, I'm not done, Darren. You see, I did my homework before I showed up. My mom, Vanessa, she was not the only one who had to suffer through your family's crap. He turned to me, ice cold. Your uncle, Ray? Let's just say, his business dealings weren't exactly legal. And we both know it wasn't just a few years ago. Uncle Ray stiffened. His face turned pale, and his eyes darted around the room, looking for an escape that wasn't there. I felt the room closing in on me. The air felt thick, suffocating. Everyone's dirty laundry, everyone's secrets, had just come tumbling out onto the table. And I was right in the middle of it. Jake's voice lowered again. I'm just the last one left, man. The last one who's finally calling you all out. There it was. The dam had broken. All the lies, all the secrets, and now I was stuck trying to piece together a family that had never been whole to begin with. Jake's words kept echoing in my head, louder than the murmurs around the table. The more he spoke, the more it felt like the floor was falling out from under me. I thought I knew my family. I thought I had my shit together. But now, sitting in that room with Jake's cold stare and everyone's uncomfortable silence, I realized just how little I actually knew. He leaned back in his chair again, his voice like ice. I'm not here for a happy reunion. I'm not here to get hugs or apologies. I'm here because I'm done with this family. I'm done being the invisible kid who gets swept under the rug just because nobody wants to face the truth. Every word felt like a slap. I wanted to stand up, to say something, to make it stop, but I couldn't. I was frozen. Darren shifted in his seat, looking like he was about to bolt. But before anyone could say anything, Jake added, "And don't think I didn't notice you, Darren. The guy who lit a gas station on fire to cover up a robbery. How's that for a family legacy?" Darren's face turned white as a ghost, and my heart sank. This was more than just one bad apple in the bunch. This was a whole damn orchard of rotten fruit. Uncle Ray's voice broke through the tension. "Jake, that was years ago. You're digging up the past for no reason." "Oh, I'm not digging it up, Ray," Jake replied, his voice low but forceful. "I'm just pointing out what's already there. You think I'm the problem? You think I'm the one who messed up? Look around, old man. We're all a bunch of freaking screw-ups." My mind was racing. How had I missed all of this? Was I really that blind to the dark underbelly of my own family? How much of this was me turning a blind eye and how much of it was them never letting me see the whole picture? Jake leaned forward, locking eyes with me. "I'm not expecting you to fix it. I'm not expecting you to be anything for me. You had your chance. But I want you to know one thing." I swallowed. "What?" "Don't blame me for who I turned out to be. Blame the family that raised me. Blame the legacy I inherited." And with that, he stood up, slowly pushing his chair back. "I'm done here. You're all the same. A bunch of liars and criminals. So enjoy your turkey. I'll be at the bar across the street if anyone wants to get real for a second." With that, he turned and walked out of the room, leaving a stunned silence behind him. I didn't move. I couldn't. My thoughts were too tangled, too jumbled, trying to process everything he'd just dropped in my lap. The weight of everything was crushing me. The room remained dead silent for what felt like hours after Jake left. No one spoke. No one moved. It was like time itself had frozen, leaving everyone to stew in the mess that had just been spilled across the table. I couldn't even look at anyone. Not Darren, not Uncle Ray, not Aunt Lisa, hell, not even myself. I just stared at my plate, watching the mashed potatoes blur as my hands trembled slightly. I wanted to scream. I wanted to get up and run out, find Jake, pull him back into the house, apologize, explain, do something. But I couldn't. I was paralyzed. Darren shifted uncomfortably in his chair, breaking the silence in the worst way possible. "Well, that was a fun Thanksgiving." He let out a dry laugh, but it didn't reach his eyes. Uncle Ray glared at him. "Shut up, Darren." I finally looked up, meeting Ray's gaze. His face was pale, his expression strained. He had his own demons, sure, but in that moment, I could see the cracks in his armor. His secrets were getting exposed, too. "Ray," I said quietly, my voice hoarse, "what the hell did Jake mean by all that?" Uncle Ray sighed deeply, like the weight of the world was on his shoulders. "It's not a simple answer, Mark." I swallowed, feeling the sting of anger and betrayal creeping up. "I don't care. I need answers." "You've known all along, haven't you?" Ray avoided my eyes. He wasn't denying it, not even trying. He knew what Jake had said was true. Aunt Lisa cleared her throat nervously, trying to steer the conversation back to something, anything, that could offer a sense of normalcy. "Well, how about we all just try to eat? I mean, the food's still here, right?" But no one was hungry. No one cared about the food. It was just a distraction. I could feel my own guilt washing over me in waves. I had spent so many years burying my head in the sand, ignoring the parts of my family that were too broken to look at. And now it was all crashing down at once. I couldn't look at the turkey or the stuffing. I couldn't look at anyone else, either. For the first time in my life, I didn't know how to fix this. The silence that followed felt like it had a weight all its own, sitting on my chest, making it harder to breathe. The air in the room felt stale, thick with everything that hadn't been said, everything that had been buried for years. I pushed my plate away, suddenly nauseous. The room was spinning in slow motion, and I felt like I was on the edge of a cliff, teetering between anger, regret, and utter confusion. Ray finally spoke again, his voice softer this time. "You want to know the truth, Mark? The truth is that this family has always been a goddamn mess. And Jake, he's not wrong about any of it. You might not remember, but he remembers everything. And maybe he's better for it." My head snapped up. Better? He's angry as hell, Ray. Ray sighed. Yeah, he is. And who wouldn't be? But he's right. Every single one of us, we all did some stupid shit. And it's catching up to us now. I wanted to argue, to defend myself, but I couldn't. Because the more I thought about it, the more I realized Jake had every right to be furious. He'd been abandoned, and I was just another guy who walked away from his responsibilities. Aunt Lisa gave me a look that was half sympathy, half fear. She was always the peacemaker, but even she couldn't fix this. "Mark, maybe it's time to face it. Maybe it's time to stop running from all this." Running? Had I been running all these years? I thought about the woman I didn't remember, the kid I never knew existed, the family that had always been this tangled mess of secrets. And for the first time in my life, I understood the weight of it. "I don't know how to fix this," I said, barely above a whisper. Ray finally turned to me, his eyes full of something close to regret. "You can't fix it, man. You just have to live with it. We all do." And for the first time, I felt like I understood what he meant. There wasn't some easy fix. There wasn't a magic apology that could erase the past. This wasn't a movie where everything tied up nicely at the end. This was my reality. And the truth was, I had been ignoring it for far too long. I stood up abruptly, pushing my chair back. "I'm going to find him." Everyone froze. Ray's face tightened. "Mark, don't do something you'll regret." "I have to." I didn't even know why I said it. I just felt this overwhelming need to face the mess I had made. If nothing else, maybe I owed Jake that. I didn't wait for anyone to stop me. I grabbed my coat and walked out the door. The cold hit me as soon as I stepped outside. I hadn't even realized how warm the house had been until I was out there in the November night, shivering as the wind sliced through my jacket. But the cold didn't matter. Nothing mattered but finding Jake. I didn't know where to start. There was no real place for me to go. I didn't know the bars he liked, or even if that's where he'd gone. But I had to try. I walked down the street, my breath coming in sharp puffs in the icy air, wondering if I was making the biggest mistake of my life. This whole night had been a mess. Every word Jake had said had cut through me, and I couldn't even find a way to apologize, to make things right. It was clear now that everything I'd ever known was a lie, or at least half a lie. Jake had been right. This family was a house of cards, and the moment you pulled one out, the whole damn thing started to fall apart. I reached the first bar I could find, but Jake wasn't there. I didn't know why I thought he would be. I walked to the next one, then the next. My legs were tired, my thoughts spinning. And then, at the last bar down the street, I saw him. Jake was sitting at the end of the counter, nursing a beer. His shoulders were hunched, and he didn't look up when I walked in. His back was to me, but I could feel the weight of the silence. He knew I was there. I took a deep breath and walked over to him. "Jake." He didn't turn around. Didn't acknowledge me at all. It was like I wasn't even there. I sat down next to him. "Jake, I struggled for the words. I don't know what you want from me, man." But I'm here. I'm not going anywhere until we talk about this. He finally turned, his eyes flat. Talk? What's there to talk about? I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. He was right. What could I say? The years of absence? The lies? The regret? I can't fix what I did, Jake. The words felt heavy in my mouth. I can't take back everything I did wrong. But I'm here. And I want to try. Jake didn't say anything for a long time. I didn't know if he was even listening. And then, he surprised me. He leaned back in his chair, a tired smile pulling at the corners of his mouth. You know, I don't need you to fix it, Mark. I blinked. What? I don't need you to fix it, he repeated, his voice softer now. I don't need you to suddenly be a dad or some shit. What I needed, what I've always needed, was for someone to just see me. To acknowledge me. For once. I felt like the wind had been knocked out of me. You think I don't know how messed up I am? Jake continued, his voice low. You think I haven't been pissed off for years? I've been angry at the world for what happened to me, for how you all abandoned me. But I can't keep carrying that anymore. I'm tired, Mark. I nodded slowly. I understood more than I could say. The weight of everything, of all the broken pieces, was too much for anyone to carry alone. I don't know if we can ever fix this, Jake muttered, the bitterness still there, but quieter. But maybe we can try to make it less broken. I didn't have an answer. Hell, I wasn't even sure what trying would look like. But maybe that was enough. For the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel like I was drowning in guilt. I wasn't running from the past anymore. I was here, and I was finally listening. Jake raised his glass. Here's to making things less broken, I guess. I clinked my glass against his, feeling the weight of the moment. It wasn't perfect. Nothing would ever be perfect. But maybe, just maybe, it was a start. The end.